Momocon in 2026 was a whole blast. I got to see some really new and old vendors as well as participate in two really fun games. So in this video, I'll be discussing my experience at this year's Momocon 2026. I'll go over what is Momocon for those who might not know, what does the setup look like, what nerdy things can you get up to, as well as my personal experiences this year and how that might differ from previous years visiting. And in theme with the theme park setting of this year, make sure your hands and feet are in the vehicle because me and Momo are sitting off to Atlanta, Georgia. MomoCon is a multi-genre fan convention held generally in late May in the Georgia World Congress Center in Atlanta, Georgia. It happens during the Memorial Day weekend and is a 4-day event. It started back as a student-run event from the Anime Club at Georgia Tech. And this year it brought in more than 60,000 people, with Friday and Saturday being the most busiest days, and has been held every Memorial Day weekend since 2014. The convention set a record by even breaking its roughly 55 to 59,000 number in comparison to 2026, as I said earlier, being around 60,000. The biggest appeal to Momocon, like I said, is the multi-genre and all-age appeal. It brings in a lot of people from all fandoms, hobbies, and geekdom. So there are plenty of nerdy activities you can get up to. Here's a list of some of the things that I just found from my experiences as well as walking through the con. Cosplay, celebrity guests, comic book and comic book signings, anime and AMVs, board games, arcade gaming, panels and main events, esport tournaments, tabletop gaming, card games such as Magic the Gathering and Pokemon TCG, console and PC gaming. And in fact, the gaming hall is noted as being, open quote, a 24 open gaming hall, second in terms of the largest of its kind in the country, spanning over 250 square feet. LARP, aka live action role playing games, not the meme. Wrestling, maid cafe, animation, which will include things like cartoons or animation reels, which are showed at panels. There are options for VR gaming, as well as paid workshops, for example, building Gunpla or making certain foods or learning how to sew. Finally, there's also a kids zone specifically made for, well, patrons who are kids, since this is an all-age convention. In fact, this year I even saw a new addition such as Wonder Festival, which is an organization and gathering for people who enjoy figurines and building models. Also, there is the obvious and really huge Artist Alley Exhibit Hall, which is where you will spend a lot of your money, as I did, and there you'll be able to see all of your favorite artists, creatives, and whatnot, as well as sponsored guests and companies that might be of your interest. This is all to say that Momocon's generality and variability, while being lower priced than say DragonCon, which happens in September, allows for a lot more fun for multiple people while being a slightly cheaper price point. In terms of RPG content, I first started playing Fabula Ultima, and the game runs super smooth, with mechanical rolls being simply a different set of dice depending on your situation. For instance, I played Edgar, and Edgar's main stats were, I believe, dexterity and willpower. Dexterity being a d10 and willpower being a d8, but I could be incorrect. Nevertheless, for most situations, I would roll a combination of my dice depending on the situation and or what my players and I were going through. I also think that flexibility of having different dice really lets you focus in on what kind of your character might look like versus another. So it allows for very easy flexibility and character creation. I can see that. I also think the abilities and mixing of classes really allow for my character to stand out. I truly believe Fabula Ultima is the perfect experience if you want a JRPG experience for a tabletop RPG. Also, I just loved Edgar as the hopeful idealistic character that I played him up as. Nothing is more refreshing than a character who, despite everything, is truly a beam of light in a world that is scary. Arium Create, I played on Saturday. Arium Creates, or Arium Create by Adam Icarus, is a toolkit/book for creating unique stories and worlds that you and your group want to discover together. In this game, using sticky notes, you go through multiple phases between you and your fellow players, building a world and setting that will house your campaign or game or one shot. Each step you write on a sticky note your specific genre, idea, character, or kitty. Afterwards, you all respectively vote on these ideas. There's also a token system for each player and the facilitator to use if there's a really cool idea they want to keep. As a review by Angel Citadel perfectly stated back in 2021, the toolkit helps create a open quote 7-step process starting with step 0 that walks you through a narrowing of focus and providing detail to narrowed focus until you have a usable world to get started playing in. And this worked because every round we focused on our world. We created this romantic comedy thriller world that focused on a mushroom-focused civilization. There's also an element of mystery and noir, as well as a mob boss. It was kind of goofy, but it was also really freaking cool and super novel. So if you're looking for a JRPG, tabletop RPG, or a toolkit for world building, then both of these options are easily available to you. That said, there are a lot of fun RPGs that I just didn't get the chance to play. So here are some other indie RPGs that I saw offered. There was Dragonbane, there was also X-Crawl, Landed of Eam, Intro to Capers, which I have but I haven't played yet, and Phantasy Star Tabletop Roleplaying. This year, there felt like there were more offerings in terms of indie RPGs, which for me was a great benefit. I also think that in terms of what makes the RPG section different than, say, previous years was now that they are charging people a very small amount to play games. This depends on the hours of the game. So games were set between 2 to 4 hours. If you were playing for a 2-hour game, you played for a $1 ticket. If you were playing for a 4-hour game, you paid for $2 of tickets per game. So this really allowed for, first off, money and funding to go back into the RPG department, as well as for donating that money to a good cause. But secondly, it also put pressure on the players and game masters to actually show up for their games rather than just showing up on the basis of goodwill. And knowing that everyone's time is valuable, I think that transition has been very helpful for the RPG department and helpful for reminding me to get to my game on time. Overall, I think the TTRPG scene at Momocon is super fun, especially if you're into indie games. Now, there's also options for D&D League as well as Pathfinder. So if that is your thing as well, you can check that out as well, given for next Momocon. Moving on, here are some of the vendors I bought from and or want to shout out. There was Hunt Art Studios, which had these awesome prints featuring black characters doing really awesome stuff. I really love the piece of Charizard and the Breaking Chains Rising Strong piece. Seriously, I was super hyped and stopped dead in my track when I saw Hunt Art Studios' work. It is truly just, it reminds me of like, I guess the 2000s cartoons, and also, I don't know. I think it's probably also the remixes of, say, characters from the Boondocks, or the sort of appeal to my Toonami brain rot, I guess. Nevertheless, I really enjoyed it. There was also Jarrett Wright, who was in the Artist Alley, if I'm correct. Jarrett is a comic and graphic novel writer, cookbook author, food journalist who worked in the food industry and is the author of a lot of cookbooks as well as the award-winning Chef's Kiss. I personally will highlight the F-Slur shirt because just look at this. It's just oozes my kind of style. I absolutely love this shirt, and I wore it a couple days ago upon recording this. So really, just if you got anything, if you got money, check out this website, check out the store, go buy that shirt. Also, one last thing, their pig mascot is absolutely damn adorable. Absolutely adorable. DJ Kirkland is an artist I've always visit because let's just say I love, that's not even me being modest. I do love beefy, big queer people, and their posters serve exactly that kind of material that I'm looking for. Plus, their Sailor Moon art is pretty cool. I'd show more of it, but I'd like to not get banned off YouTube. But don't worry, the link will be in the description box. Finally, Evergreen Burrows. I just completed my collection of buying their white and blue dice shirt. Now I have all three to spot for all con-going visits, events, and programming. And those are some of the vendors that really call out to me. But as you can see, I also got this Monty Python limited edition player's book, as well as some really cute bonnets from, I believe, Oh My. I couldn't quite find it just on Google, and I didn't have the receipt, but I'll try my best to put the link to the artist as well in the description box. In conclusion, here's my recommendation for Momocon. If you love a more general convention, especially for a family or group of friends, then this convention is going to work perfectly for you. It is slightly cheaper than, say, DragonCon, So it does also help, and it's also in a relatively cheaper time period than Dragon Con, being around Memorial Day versus, say, Labor Day. Though the prices might actually not be that much cheaper in comparison, but I will say that generally speaking, when I've traveled to Atlanta in May, it's relatively cheaper, given the fact that Momocon is relatively cheaper convention. The location is in downtown Atlanta, surrounded by multiple hotels. So it's super accessible in terms of location from the downtown area. Finally, for creatives and media, they are super responsive in terms of applying for media badge and or a creator badge. I think this is a great starter convention if you want to do interviews or have a specific niche interest in, say, comic books or anime. That being said, I do think if you want a more specific convention for RPGs or for anime or for gaming, then this might not be the exact convention for you. This isn't to say that the convention is bad, no. Rather, because of its generality, Momocon sort of isn't the best at focusing on one particular fandom or hobby. There are many things to do, and there are many people with very keen interests, but you're going to need to look for, say, a more specific con like Anime Week in Atlanta, or say PAX Unplugged for tabletop role-playing games. Nevertheless, you bet your beautiful selves that I'll be at the next Momocon in 2027, and hopefully when I get off this ride I won't be sick. I doubt it, since I got a nice little sweet tooth and I'm going to go, well, put up my posters that I bought. When I'm done recovering from my financial destitution, how about you check out this video over here, as you can see. And once you're done, how about I give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters, Harrison Parker and Logan, for your continued support. You too can support me over my Patreon over here and my coffee over here. And without further ado, I'm your average everyday queer con goer, blurry disposition, and hope you all have an awesome day. Ciao!